The morning had been quiet. Too quiet. Emma Hart stood in front of the Red Hollow schoolhouse, a building that leaned slightly to the left and smelled of old wood and older lies. 23 children were supposed to attend. 11 showed up. The rest? Their parents had decided a widow teaching their sons and daughters was inappropriate. She had heard the word whispered in the general store, seen it in the tight smiles of the churchwomen, felt it in the way men looked past her like she was a ghost already. Inappropriate, as if surviving her husband's death made her dangerous. Emma pushed the schoolhouse door open. The hinges screamed. Inside, dust floated in the thin sunlight, and the 11 children, ranging from 6 to 14, sat scattered across benches that could hold 40. They watched her with the cautious curiosity of barn cats sizing up a stranger. "Good morning," Emma said. A few mumbled responses. One boy in the back, maybe 12, did not even look up. His arms were crossed, his jaw set in that particular way boys had, when they had already decided not to like you. Emma set her books on the desk. It wobbled. Everything in Red Hollow wobbled. Buildings, friendships, promises. This town was held together by spit and suspicion, and she had been dumped here with nothing but a worn carpet bag and a deed to a cabin that barely kept the wind out. Her husband, Michael, had bought the property before he died, called it an investment, called it their future. He had been wrong about a lot of things. "We are going to start with reading," Emma said. "I want each of you to—" "Why?" The boy in the back finally spoke. His name was Jake Crawford, son of the feed store owner. He had his father's hard eyes. Emma paused. "Why what, Jake?" "Why should we learn reading from you?" He said it flat, not cruel, just factual, like he was asking why the sky was blue. "My pa says you should not even be here." A few kids shifted uncomfortably. One little girl, Sarah, 7 years old with pigtails, looked down at her hands. Emma had 2 choices. She could reprimand him, pull rank, play the authority figure. That was what the previous teacher, a man named Calloway, would have done. He had ruled with a switch and a loud voice, and the kids had hated him. Or she could be honest. "Your father is probably right," Emma said. Jake blinked. That was not the answer he expected. "I am a widow with no family, no money, and no real business being a teacher," Emma continued. She sat on the edge of the desk, letting it wobble beneath her. "I have got a 4th grade education myself, and half of what I know I learned from books I borrowed because I could not afford to buy them. So if you are asking whether I am qualified, the answer is no. Not by a long shot." The room was dead silent now. Every kid was staring at her. "But here is the thing," Emma said quietly. "I am what you have got. The town council hired me because I was cheap and desperate, and they figured a bad teacher was better than no teacher. So you can sit here and waste your time resenting me, or you can let me teach you what I know. Your choice." Jake's face was unreadable. Then slowly he uncrossed his arms. "What are we reading?" he asked. Emma smiled. Small victories. "Treasure Island," she said. Chapter 1. The day passed in a blur of stumbling readings and chalk dust. By the time the children filed out, Emma's head was pounding and her hands were gray with chalk residue. She watched them scatter toward town, their laughter fading into the dry afternoon air. Red Hollow sprawled before her like a wound that would not heal. Main Street is a strip of false front buildings and bare dirt, baking under a sun that felt personal in its cruelty. The saloon, the general store, the feed store, the church. Each one a little kingdom ruled by men who had decided Emma did not belong. She locked the schoolhouse and started the walk home. Her cabin sat on the eastern edge of town, a mile past the last respectable house. Isolation geography. The town had made sure she knew her place. The walk took 20 minutes of keeping her eyes forward, her shoulders straight, her face neutral. 20 minutes of feeling the weight of stairs from porches and windows. Quartier Hollow did not need to say it out loud. She could read it in every turned back, every conversation that stopped when she passed. "You are not one of us." Her cabin came into view, small, rough, surrounded by scrub grass and silence. She had planted a vegetable garden in the side yard, but the soil was poor, and the heat was winning. Half her tomato plants had already withered. Emma was fumbling with her door key when she felt it. Someone was watching her. She turned slowly. The ridge beyond her property line rose like a shadow against the sky, dotted with cedar and juniper. And there, on horseback, silhouetted against the fading light, was a man. He did not move, did not call out, just sat there, watching. Emma's heart kicked up. She had heard stories about the man on the ridge. Everyone in Red Hollow had. Ryan Hale, war veteran, rancher, killer. The stories varied depending on who was telling them. Some said he had been a Confederate sharpshooter who had killed 30 men in a single battle. Others claimed he had murdered a man in cold blood over a land dispute and gotten away with it because no one dared testify. A few insisted he had lost his mind in the war and now lived like an animal, half feral and dangerous. The only thing everyone agreed on: stay away from Ryan Hale. Emma gripped her key tighter. The man on the ridge did not move. She could feel his gaze, heavy and unreadable. Then, without a word, he turned his horse and disappeared over the ridge. Emma stood there for a full minute, her pulse hammering. Then she went inside, locked the door, and leaned against it. "Welcome to Red Hollow," she thought bitterly, "where even the horizon watches you." Time blurred together. Emma taught, gardened, read by candlelight, and tried not to think about how lonely a person could feel while surrounded by people. The children were warming to her, slowly, grudgingly, but warming. Jake Crawford had even smiled once when she had praised his reading. But the town itself? The town was ice. She had tried at first. She had attended church, smiled at the women, offered polite conversation. They had smiled back with mouths that did not reach their eyes and found excuses to drift away. The men were worse, either ignoring her completely or looking at her in ways that made her skin crawl. There was one exception. Ryan Hale kept appearing. Not close, never close, but there. On the ridge while she walked to school, at the edge of the market when she bought supplies. Once, sitting on his horse in the rain while she hurried home. His hat pulled low and his coat slick with water. He never approached, never spoke, just watched. It should have terrified her. Instead, it made her angry. After that first sighting, Emma marched straight toward him. She had been walking home from school when she had spotted him on the ridge again. Same spot, same stillness. And something inside her snapped. She veered off the road and climbed. The ridge was steeper than it looked. Her skirts caught on scrub brush and sweat soaked through her blouse, but she did not stop. When she reached the top, breathing hard, Ryan Hale was still there. Up close, he was worse than the stories suggested. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a face that looked like it had been carved with a dull knife and left unfinished. A scar cut through his left eyebrow and disappeared into his hairline. His eyes were gray, not soft gray, but the gray of gunmetal and winter skies. He wore range clothes, dusty and worn, and a revolver sat low on his hip. He did not say anything, just looked at her. "Why?" Emma demanded. Her voice came out sharper than she intended, but she did not care. Why do you keep watching me?" Ryan's expression did not change. For a long moment he did not answer. Then, in a voice like gravel scraping stone, he said, "Making sure you are safe." Emma laughed. It was a bitter, disbelieving sound. Safe? From what? This town. 2 words. They hit harder than a sermon. Emma's anger faltered. "I do not need your protection." "Did not say you did." Ryan shifted in his saddle and his horse, a gray mare with intelligent eyes, stepped sideways. "Said I was making sure." "That is not your job." "No," he agreed. "It is not." They stared at each other. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of dust and distant rain. Emma should have left, should have turned around and walked back down the ridge, but something kept her rooted. "The town thinks you are dangerous," she said finally. Ryan's mouth twitched. It might have been a smile, might have been something darker. "Town is right. Then why should I trust you?" "You should not." Emma blinked. That was not the answer she expected. Ryan leaned forward slightly, and his eyes locked onto hers. "I have done things that would keep you awake at night, Mrs. Hart. Killed men, hurt people who probably did not deserve it. I am not a good man, and I am not asking you to trust me." "Then what are you asking?" "Nothing." He straightened. "I'm not asking anything. I'm just telling you, long as you are in Red Hollow, I am watching. That is all." Before Emma could respond, he turned his horse and rode off, disappearing into the cedar trees. Emma stood there, heart pounding, trying to make sense of what had just happened. She failed. The trouble started small. After her confrontation with Ryan, Emma arrived at the schoolhouse to find the door smeared with mud and manure. No note, no signature, just filth. Deliberate and mean. She cleaned it herself, scrubbing until her hands were raw. 2 days later, someone broke the schoolhouse windows. 3 panes shattered in the night. Emma swept up the glass and paid for replacements out of her own meager salary. The following week, parents started pulling their children out. First it was 2 families, then 5, then 10. By the end of the month, Emma was teaching 6 students in a room built for 40. She went to the town council, met with Mayor Whitaker, a soft-bellied man with wet eyes and a politician's smile. "I'm sure it is just a phase," Whitaker said, shuffling papers on his desk. "Folks get nervous about change. Give it time." "Someone is vandalizing the school," Emma said flatly. "This is not nervousness. This is harassment." Whitaker's smile thinned. "Now, Mrs. Hart, that is a strong accusation. Do you have proof?" "The broken windows. Could have been kids playing. Boys get rowdy. The manure on the door. Could have been an accident. Animals wander." Emma stared at him. "You are not going to do anything, are you?" Whitaker leaned back in his chair. "Mrs. Hart, I understand you are upset, but you have to understand the position you are in. This town has traditions, expectations. A widow living alone, teaching children. It makes people uncomfortable. That is not my problem. It is if you want to keep your job." The words hung in the air like a threat. Emma stood. "Thank you for your time, Mayor." She walked out before he could say anything else. Outside, the sun was setting, painting Red Hollow in shades of blood and gold. Emma stood on the council building steps, trembling with anger and something that felt dangerously close to despair. A voice spoke from the shadows. "He threatened you?" Emma spun. Ryan Hale was leaning against the wall. Arms crossed, hat pulled low. She had not even heard him approach. "How long have you been there?" she demanded. "Long enough." He pushed off the wall and stepped into the fading light. "What did Whitaker say?" "That is none of your business." "That is not an answer." Emma's hands clenched into fists. "He said if I want to keep my job, I should stop making people uncomfortable, which apparently means accepting vandalism and keeping my mouth shut. Ryan's jaw tightened. Whitaker is a coward and a liar. That does not help me. No, Ryan agreed. It does not. They stood in silence. Emma wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something. Instead, she took a breath and forced her voice steady. "Why do you care?" she asked. "You do not know me. You do not owe me anything. So why do you keep showing up?" Ryan looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "You remind me of someone." "Who?" "Does not matter. She is dead." The bluntness of it stole Emma's breath. Ryan did not elaborate, did not soften it, just stated it like a fact. "I'm sorry," Emma said quietly. Ryan shrugged. "Long time ago." Another silence. This one felt heavier. "I should go," Emma said finally. "I will walk you." "That is not," was not asking. Emma opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. The truth was, she did not want to walk home alone. Not tonight. Not with the town's hostility pressing down like a storm waiting to break. "Fine," she said. They walked in silence. Ryan kept a respectful distance, his boots crunching on the dirt road. He did not try to make conversation, did not fill the quiet with meaningless words. For some reason, that made it easier. When they reached her cabin, Emma paused at the door. "Thank you," she said. Ryan nodded. "Lock your doors tonight." "I always do." "Lock them anyway." He turned and walked back toward the ridge, swallowed by the gathering darkness. Emma went inside, locked the door, and stood in the center of her small cabin, feeling the weight of the day press down on her shoulders. She was so tired, tired of fighting, tired of being hated, tired of pretending she was strong enough to survive this. But she did not have a choice. She had nowhere else to go. The next morning, Emma woke to find a deer carcass hanging from her fence post. It had been gutted and cleaned, ready for butchering. A knife was stuck in the post beside it, holding a scrap of paper. The note read, "For winter." No signature. Emma looked toward the ridge. Ryan was there, sitting on his horse, silhouetted against the dawn. She raised her hand in acknowledgement. He tipped his hat and rode away. Emma stared at the deer for a long moment. Then she went inside, got her butchering knife, and got to work. If the town wanted to starve her out, they would have to try harder. And with it, the first real cold. Red Hollow pulled its coat tighter and hunkered down. Emma's student count dropped to 4. 4 children in a room that echoed with emptiness. She kept teaching. The vandalism continued. More broken windows. Manure smeared on her cabin door now, not just the school. Once, she found her vegetable garden. Trampled, every plant destroyed. She kept teaching. The women in town stopped pretending to be polite. They stared openly now, whispered loudly enough for her to hear. Jezebel, harlot, unnatural. She kept teaching, and Ryan kept watching. He brought her firewood once, stacked neatly by her door without a word. Another time, she found her fence repaired, boards she could not afford to replace suddenly straight and solid. She did not thank him, did not need to. He was not doing it for gratitude. But one evening, when he was sitting on the ridge as usual, Emma climbed up to meet him. "Why?" she asked. Same question as before, but it meant something different now. Ryan looked at her. The sunset caught in his eyes, turning them amber. "Because you are still here," he said simply. "Most people would have run by now. You did not. I do not have anywhere to run to. That is not why you stayed." Emma's breath caught. He was right, and they both knew it. "I am not a good person, Mrs. Hart," Ryan continued. "Already told you that. but I recognize strength when I see it. And you are stronger than this whole damn town combined. Something in Emma's chest cracked open, not breaking, opening. Emma, she said quietly. What? My name. It is Emma, not Mrs. Hart. Ryan's expression softened, just barely. Emma. The way he said it, careful, deliberate, like he was testing the weight of it, made her shiver. I should go, she said, but she did not move. Yeah, Ryan agreed, but he did not move either. They sat together on the ridge, watching the sun bleed out across the horizon, and for the first time since she had arrived in Red Hollow, Emma did not feel alone. And the storm broke. Emma was in the schoolhouse with her 4 remaining students when the door slammed open. 3 men walked in. Ben Crawford, Jake's father, Tom Mercer, who owned the saloon, and Deputy Wade, a weasel-faced man with a badge he did not deserve. School is dismissed, Crawford announced. The children froze. Emma stood slowly. Excuse me? You heard me. Send the kids home. I am in the middle of a lesson. Do not care. Crawford's face was red, his jaw tight. Town council voted. You are done. Emma's stomach dropped. On what grounds? Moral grounds. It was Mercer who spoke this time, his voice slick and satisfied. Cannot have our children taught by a woman of questionable character. Questionable? Emma's voice rose. I have done nothing wrong. You have been seen, Wade said, and there was something cruel in his smile. Seen with Ryan Hale multiple times, at night. Emma's blood ran cold. He walks me home, that is all. That is not what it looks like. I do not care what it looks like. Well, you should. Crawford stepped closer. This town has standards, Mrs. Hart, and you do not meet them. Emma looked at her students. 4 pairs of wide, frightened eyes staring back at her. Leave, she said quietly. Go home. All of you. They scrambled out, and the silence that followed was suffocating. You cannot do this, Emma said, but even she could hear the desperation in her voice. Already done, Mercer said. You have got till the end of the week to clear out of the cabin, too. Contract is terminated. That cabin is mine. My husband, your husband bought land. The cabin came with the teaching contract. No contract, no cabin. Wade was enjoying this. Emma could see it in his eyes. Where am I supposed to go? Crawford shrugged. Not our problem. They left, slamming the door behind them. Emma stood alone in the empty schoolhouse, her hands shaking, her vision blurring with tears she refused to shed. She had lost. After months of fighting, of enduring, of surviving, she had lost. She packed her books slowly, methodically. When she stepped outside, the sun was setting, and the town looked like it always did. Indifferent. Hostile. Waiting for her to break. She started walking toward her cabin. She made it halfway before Ryan appeared. He rode up beside her, dismounted, and fell into step without a word. Emma did not look at him. Could not. If she did, she would fall apart. They fired you, Ryan said. Not a question. Yes. Cabin 2? Yes. Ryan swore. Low and vicious. They walked in silence until they reached her door. Emma fumbled with her key, and her hands were shaking so badly she dropped it. Ryan picked it up. He unlocked the door, pushed it open, and then did something that surprised her. He waited. You can come in, Emma said quietly. He hesitated, then stepped inside. Emma lit a lamp. The small cabin flickered to life, sparse, clean, and utterly inadequate against the enormity of what she was facing. What will you do? Ryan asked. I do not know. Emma sank into a chair. I have a little money saved, maybe enough for a stagecoach ticket. Maybe. Where would you go? Anywhere. Nowhere. Does it matter? Ryan crouched in front of her, and when she finally met his eyes, the intensity there stole her breath. Do not leave, he said. Emma laughed, bitter and broken. I do not have a choice. You do. Ryan's voice was rough, urgent. Stay. Marry me. Emma froze. What? Marry me, Ryan repeated. I have got land, a house. It is not much, but it is solid. You would be safe. You would have a place. You do not want to marry me. Would not ask if I did not. You do not even know me. I know enough. Ryan's jaw tightened. I know you are brave. I know you are stubborn as hell. I know you have been fighting this town alone for months, and you have not broken. That is more than most people can say. Emma stared at him, her mind reeling. This is insane. Probably. We are strangers. Not really. Ryan. Emma. He said her name like a prayer. I am not asking you to love me. I am not even asking you to like me. I'm asking you to survive. Let me help you do that. Tears finally spilled over, hot and furious. Why? Why do you care? Because I am tired of watching good people get crushed, Ryan said quietly, and because you deserve better than this. Emma wiped her eyes roughly. This is crazy. Yeah. I need time to think. Do not have much of that. I know. Emma took a shaking breath. Can you just go? Please. Ryan stood slowly. I will be on the ridge tomorrow. If you want to say yes, come find me. If you do not, I will understand. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Emma sat alone in the lamplight, her world crumbling, her future uncertain, and a proposal from a scarred, dangerous man echoing in her ears. She did not sleep that night. When dawn came, she stood in front of her small mirror, looked at her reflection, and made her choice. Then she climbed the ridge. Ryan was there, waiting. When he saw her, his whole body tensed. Emma stopped a few feet away. I have conditions. Name them. This is a partnership, not ownership. I am not your property. Agreed. I want to keep teaching. Even if it is just one student in my own kitchen, I am teaching. Fine. And if I ever want to leave, if this does not work, you let me go. No questions, no anger. Ryan met her eyes. You have my word. Emma took a breath. Then yes, I will marry you. Something shifted in Ryan's expression. Relief, maybe, or something deeper. We will do it today, he said, before the town can interfere. Emma nodded. They rode to the church together. The preacher, a nervous man named Hollis, stammered through the ceremony while his wife watched with horrified fascination. There were no guests, no flowers, no celebration, just two broken people making a desperate bargain in front of God, and witnesses who would rather they both disappeared. When Hollis pronounced them married, Ryan did not kiss her. He just offered his hand. Emma took it, and together they walked out of the church into a town that was about to learn a very dangerous lesson. Some people do not break, they sharpen. The ride to Ryan's ranch took 40 minutes, and Emma spent every one of them second-guessing her decision. She sat behind him on the gray mare, her arms wrapped loosely around his waist, feeling the tension in his shoulders. He had not said a word since they had left the church. Neither had she. What was there to say? They had just married each other out of desperation and spite, and now they were heading toward a life neither of them had planned. The land changed as they rode. Red Hollow's dusty streets gave way to open range, then to rolling hills, dotted with cedar and scrub oak. The air smelled cleaner out here, less poisoned by judgment and whispered accusations. Ryan's ranch appeared over a rise, a sturdy 2-room cabin with a covered porch, a barn that had seen better days, and a corral holding 3 horses. It was not much, but it was more than Emma had expected. The cabin looked solid, well-maintained, like someone actually gave a damn about it. Ryan dismounted and helped her down. His hands were careful, impersonal. When her feet hit the ground, he stepped back immediately. "I will show you inside," he said. The cabin's interior was sparse but clean. A main room with a stone fireplace, a rough-hewn table, 2 chairs, a small kitchen area with a cast-iron stove, 1 bedroom visible through an open door, a bed, a dresser, nothing else. The walls were bare except for a rifle mounted above the fireplace and a single photograph in a cracked frame on the mantel. Emma moved closer to the photograph. A woman, young and pretty, standing beside a man in a Confederate uniform. The man was Ryan, younger, without the scar, his eyes not yet carrying the weight they did now. "My wife," Ryan said from behind her. "Anna. She died of fever 2 months after that picture was taken." Emma turned. "I am sorry." "You said that already." Ryan moved to the fireplace, started building a fire even though it was not particularly cold. His hands were steady, methodical. "Bedroom is yours. I will sleep out here." "That is not necessary." "It is." He did not look at her. "This is a partnership, like you said. You get privacy. You get space. You get what you need." Emma watched him work. This strange, damaged man she had just married. "What do you get?" Ryan paused, then continued stacking wood. "Peace of mind. Knowing you are safe. That is not enough. It is enough for me." The fire caught, crackling to life. Ryan stood and finally met her eyes. "I know this is not what you wanted," he said quietly. "Hell, it is probably not even what you needed, but it is what we have got. So we make it work, or we do not. Either way, you have got a roof over your head and no one telling you what to do." Emma's throat tightened. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet." Ryan grabbed his hat from the table. "I have got work to do. There is food in the pantry, water in the pump outside. Make yourself at home." He left before she could respond. Emma stood alone in the cabin that was now, impossibly, her home. She should have felt relieved, grateful even. Instead, she felt untethered, like she had stepped off a cliff and was still waiting to hit the ground. She unpacked her few belongings, 2 dresses, some undergarments, her small collection of books. Everything she owned fit in 1 drawer of the dresser. It was pathetic, really. 28 years of life reduced to this. Through the window, she could see Ryan working in the corral with one of the horses. His movements were efficient, confident. He belonged out here in a way Emma had never belonged anywhere. She turned away and started exploring the kitchen. The pantry held basic supplies: flour, salt, dried beans, a little coffee. Not much, but enough to work with. She had learned to cook out of necessity after Michael died, and she had gotten decent at it. Not good, but decent. By the time the sun started setting, Emma had made a simple stew with the ingredients she had found. It was not fancy, but it was hot, and it smelled right. She set the table, then hesitated. Should she call him in? Wait for him to come on his own? She did not know the rules of this strange arrangement. The decision was made for her when Ryan walked in, dusty and tired. He stopped when he saw the table. "You did not have to do that. We both need to eat." He washed up at the basin without arguing, then sat. They ate in silence, the only sounds the scrape of spoons and the pop of the fire. Emma kept sneaking glances at him, trying to figure out what he was thinking. His face gave nothing away. "It is good," he said finally. "It is adequate." The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Better than what I usually make, which is whatever does not require more than one pot." Emma found herself almost smiling back. "Low bar." "I am aware." Another silence, but this one felt less heavy. "The town is going to react," Emma said, "to the marriage. Let them. They might cause trouble." "They have been causing trouble." Ryan set down his spoon. "Difference now is you have got backup. I do not want you fighting my battles. Not planning to, but I am also not planning to stand by if someone comes after you." His eyes were hard. "That clear enough?" Emma nodded slowly. "Clear." After dinner, Ryan disappeared into the barn. Emma cleaned up, then retreated to the bedroom. She changed into her nightgown, climbed into the bed that smelled faintly of cedar and something else she could not identify, and stared at the ceiling. What had she done? Married a stranger? Fled to his ranch? Placed her entire future in the hands of a man the whole town feared. The whole town. But what choice had she had? Return to Red Hollow's judgment, sleep in the streets, beg for mercy from people who had spent months trying to break her? No. This was the right choice, the only choice. She just hoped she would survive it. Emma was still awake when she heard the cabin door open and close, heard Ryan moving around, settling down for the night. The sounds were oddly comforting, proof that she was not alone in this strange new life. Eventually, exhaustion won. She slept. She woke to the smell of coffee. Morning light filtered through the window, and Emma sat up, disoriented. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The wedding, the ranch, Ryan. She dressed quickly and emerged from the bedroom. Ryan was at the stove, pouring coffee into 2 tin cups. He had already been outside. His hair was wet, like he had dunked his head in the water trough. "Morning," he said, handing her a cup. "Morning." Emma sipped. The coffee was strong enough to strip paint. She tried not to wince. "Thank you. There is bread if you want it. No butter, though. Have not had time to get to town." "Bread is fine." They ate standing up, neither quite sure how to navigate this new domestic reality. Emma kept catching herself watching him, the way he moved, the scars on his hands, the tension that never quite left his shoulders. "I need to check the fence line today," Ryan said. "North pasture. You will be alone most of the day." "I will manage. If anyone shows up, I will handle it." Ryan looked like he wanted to argue, then nodded. "Rifles above the fireplace. You know how to shoot?" "Michael taught me. I am not great, but I can hit what I am aiming at if it is close enough." "That will do." He sat down his cup. "I will be back before dark." He left, and Emma was alone again. She spent the morning cleaning, even though the cabin did not really need it. It gave her something to do, a way to feel useful. She scrubbed the floors, washed the windows, organized the pantry. By noon, her hands were raw and her back ached, but the cabin looked better, felt more like hers. She was hanging laundry on a line behind the house when she heard hoofbeats. Emma's heart kicked up. She moved to the front of the cabin, shading her eyes against the sun. 3 riders approaching. She recognized them immediately. Ben Crawford, Tom Mercer, and Deputy Wade. The same men who had fired her the day before. They reined up 20 feet from the porch. Crawford's face was red, his jaw tight with barely controlled anger. "Mrs. Hart," he said, spitting her name like a curse. "Or should I say Mrs. Hale now?" Emma kept her expression neutral. "Gentlemen, we heard about your hasty marriage," Mercer said. His smile was all teeth, no warmth. "Quite the scandal." "Is there something you want?" Wade leaned forward in his saddle. "We want you gone. Out of Red Hollow, you and your husband both. This ranch is outside town limits. You have no authority here." We have authority everywhere that matters, Crawford snapped. And we are telling you leave before things get ugly. Emma's hands clenched into fists. Are you threatening me? We are warning you. Mercer's voice dropped. Ryan Hale is dangerous. Everyone knows it. He has killed men, Mrs. Hale, lots of them. And now you have tied yourself to him. That makes you dangerous too. I am a school teacher. You were a school teacher, Wade corrected. Now you are just a problem we need to solve. Something cold settled in Emma's chest. Get off this property, Crawford laughed. Or what? You will shoot us? With what? Emma turned and walked into the cabin. She heard them calling after her, mocking, confident. She ignored them, went straight to the fireplace, took down the rifle, checked that it was loaded. When she stepped back onto the porch, all three men had gone quiet. Emma did not point the rifle at them. Did not need to. Just held it. Comfortable and ready. I said, get off this property. The mockery drained from their faces. Wade's hand drifted toward his sidearm. I would not, Emma said quietly. I am a terrible shot, gentlemen. If I pull this trigger, I might hit one of you. I might hit all three. I might miss completely and hit one of your horses, but the one thing I will not do is hesitate. Crawford's horse shifted nervously. This is not over. It is for today. They stared at each other, tension thick enough to choke on. Then Crawford yanked his reins and turned his horse. You made a mistake marrying him, he called over his shoulder. You will regret it. They rode off, dust rising in their wake. Emma stood on the porch until they disappeared, then went inside and set the rifle down with shaking hands. She had just threatened 3 of Red Hollow's most powerful men. There would be consequences. When Ryan returned at dusk, Emma was sitting on the porch steps, the rifle across her knees. He dismounted slowly, his eyes taking in her posture, the weapon, the tension in her shoulders. What happened? Emma told him. Everything. The visit, the threats, the rifle. Ryan's face grew darker with each word. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. You should have shot them, he said finally. Emma's head snapped up. What? Not to kill, just to scare. Ryan took the rifle from her, checked it. Men like that only respect force. You gave them a warning. Next time, they will call your bluff. It was not a bluff, I know. He met her eyes, but they do not. And that is the problem. Emma stood. So what do we do? We prepare. Ryan headed into the barn, because they will be back, and next time, they will not come to talk. Over the following days, Ryan turned the ranch into something resembling a fortress. He reinforced the barn doors, set up lines of sight from the cabin windows, showed Emma how to load and fire the rifle properly. Not the way Michael had taught her, quick and sloppy, but with precision. You do not aim for center mass, Ryan explained, guiding her hands. Too many bones, too much risk of a through shot that does not stop them. You aim here. He tapped his own chest, just below the collarbone. Breaks the shoulder, stops the arm, puts them down without killing if you are lucky. And if I am not lucky, then they are dead, and you are alive. That is the trade. Emma practiced until her shoulder ached from the recoil. Ryan was a patient teacher, correcting her stance, her breathing, her follow-through. He never raised his voice, never showed frustration, just kept working with her until she could hit a target at 30 yards more often than not. Good enough, he said finally. Will not make you a sharpshooter, but it will keep you breathing. They fell into a rhythm. Ryan worked the ranch during the day, mending fences, tending the horses, hunting. Emma cooked, cleaned, and started a small vegetable garden near the house. In the evenings, they ate together, talked a little, then retreated to their separate spaces. It was strange, intimate, but distant. They were married, sharing a home, but they barely touched. Ryan was unfailingly polite, always careful to give her space. Sometimes Emma caught him watching her with an expression she could not quite read. Not desire, exactly. Something quieter. Something that looked almost like hope. She did not know what to do with that. A week after the confrontation with Crawford, Emma was working in her garden when she heard a rider approaching. She tensed, ready to run for the rifle, then relaxed when she recognized the horse. It was Jake Crawford, alone. The boy dismounted awkwardly, holding his horse's reins tight. He looked scared. "Jake?" Emma stood, brushing dirt from her hands. "What are you doing here?" "I needed to talk to you." He glanced around nervously. "My pa does not know I came." "Come inside." She led him into the cabin, poured him water from the pitcher. He drank it in 3 gulps, then set the cup down with shaking hands. "They are planning something," Jake said. "My pa and Mr. Mercer and some others. I heard them talking last night." Emma's blood went cold. "What kind of something?" "I do not know exactly, but they kept saying you and Mr. Hale need to be dealt with, that you are poisoning the town." Jake's voice cracked. "Mrs. Hale, I know my pa has been awful to you, and I know I was awful too at first, but you were a good teacher. You were the only one who ever made me feel like I could be something other than a feed store owner's kid." Emma's throat tightened. "Jake, I do not want them to hurt you." Tears welled in the boy's eyes. "But I do not know how to stop them." Emma crouched in front of him. "You just did. By warning us, that took courage." "It does not feel like courage. Feels like betraying my pa. Sometimes doing the right thing feels wrong. That does not make it less right." Jake wiped his eyes roughly. "What are you going to do?" "I am going to tell my husband, and we are going to be ready." The boy nodded. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. "Mrs. Hale, I am sorry for everything." "I know. Thank you, Jake." He rode off, and Emma stood in the doorway watching him disappear. Then she turned and looked toward the north pasture where Ryan was working. She needed to tell him, but when she found him, he already knew. "Saw the Crawford boy riding in," Ryan said, not looking up from the fence post he was mending. "What'd he want?" Emma told him. Ryan's hand stilled on the wire. "When?" he asked. He did not know, just that they are planning something. Ryan swore, quiet and vicious. "Figured it had come to this eventually. What do? We do not run." Ryan met her eyes. "That is what they want. They want us scared enough to leave. We do not give them that. Even if it means a fight? Especially then." He went back to work on the fence. "I have been in fights before, Emma. Lots of them. And I have learned something. Men like Crawford and Mercer, they are bullies. They only attack when they think they will win. So we make sure they do not think that." "How?" Ryan straightened. "We go to town tomorrow. Walk right down Main Street like we own it. Show them we are not hiding." Emma's heart hammered. "That is insane." "Probably, but it is also the last thing they will expect." He moved closer. "They want you afraid, isolated, easy to deal with. We show them you are none of those things. What if they attack us right there? They will not. Too public, too many witnesses." Ryan's jaw tightened. "But they will know we are not backing down, and that will make them sloppy." Emma wanted to argue, wanted to suggest something safer, smarter. But looking at Ryan's face, she knew he was right. They had to stand their ground. "Okay," she said. "Tomorrow." That night, Emma could not sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of Ryan moving around outside. He was checking the perimeter, making sure everything was secure. He did that every night now, circling the property like a wolf guarding its den. She heard him come back inside, heard him settle down by the fire. Emma got up, wrapped a shawl around her shoulders, and opened the bedroom door. Ryan looked up from where he sat, rifle across his lap. Something wrong? Cannot sleep. Me neither. Emma sat in the other chair. The fire crackled between them, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Tell me about Anna, she said quietly. Ryan's expression closed off. Why? Because I am sleeping in her bed, living in her house, and I do not know anything about her. For a long moment, Emma thought he would not answer. Then he sighed. She was good. Too good for me. Definitely too good for this place. His voice was rough. Met her in Atlanta, right after the war ended. I was a mess, half-starved, full of ghosts. She saw something in me anyway, something worth saving. Did she save you? For a little while. Ryan stared into the fire. We came out here thinking we would build something, a life, a future. Then the fever came, and she was gone in 3 days. I buried her on the hill behind the house. Emma's chest ached. I am sorry. Everyone is sorry. Does not change anything. He looked at her. But I have learned something since then. Being alone does not hurt less. It just hurts different. Is that why you asked me to marry you? Because you did not want to be alone? No. Ryan's voice was firm. I asked because you needed help, and I could give it. The rest, that is just a side benefit. They sat in silence, the fire burning low. I do not know if I can ever love you, Emma said finally. I do not know if I have that in me anymore. I am not asking for love. Then what are you asking for? Ryan leaned forward, his eyes catching the firelight. Partnership, honesty, someone who will not run when things get hard. That is all. I can do that. Then that is enough. Emma stood. Thank you, Ryan. For what? For not expecting me to be something I am not. She went back to bed, and this time she slept. The next morning, they dressed carefully. Emma wore her best dress, dark blue, simple, but well made. Ryan put on a clean shirt and his good hat. They looked respectable, intentional, like people who had every right to walk through town without apology. The ride to Red Hollow was tense. Emma kept her hand steady on the reins, her back straight. Beside her, Ryan rode easy, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes never stopped moving. They reached Main Street at mid-morning. The town was busy, people going about their business, wagons rolling past, children playing in the dirt. When Emma and Ryan rode in, conversation stopped. Heads turned. Whispers started. Ryan dismounted in front of the general store and helped Emma down. His hand was steady, warm. Ready? He murmured. No, but let us do it anyway. They walked into the store together. Martha Green, the owner's wife, was behind the counter. Her mouth fell open when she saw them. Mrs. Hale, she stammered. We did not expect. We need supplies, Emma said calmly. Flour, sugar, coffee, if you have it. Martha's eyes darted to Ryan, who stood silent and imposing behind Emma. Of course, right away. She scurried to gather the items, her hands shaking. Emma watched her, keeping her expression neutral. Around them, other customers had gone quiet, watching. Emma met their stares without flinching. When Martha finished, Emma paid and took the supplies. Thank you, Mrs. Green. You are welcome. They walked out. Up and down Main Street, people had stopped to watch. Emma could feel the weight of their judgment, their hostility. But she kept walking, head high, Ryan at her side. Then she saw them. Crawford, Mercer, and Wade, standing outside the saloon, watching. Ryan saw them too. His hand drifted toward his hip, where his revolver sat. "Easy," Emma murmured. "I am easy." They walked past the three men. No one spoke, but the message was clear. "We are not afraid of you." They made it back to their horses without incident. As Ryan helped Emma mount, Crawford called out, "Enjoy it while you can, Hale." Ryan turned slowly. "Something you want to say to my wife?" The emphasis on wife was deliberate, sharp. Crawford's face flushed. "Just that your luck is going to run out eventually." "Everyone's does," Ryan agreed. "Question is, whose runs out first?" They rode out of town, Emma's heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. But she did not look back. When they were clear of Red Hollow, Ryan let out a breath. "You did good," he said. "I was terrified." "Did not show." Emma laughed, shaky and relieved. "Maybe we will survive this after all." "Maybe," Ryan agreed. But they both knew the truth. The fight was just beginning. The attack came 3 nights later, but not the way Emma expected. She woke to silence, complete, unnatural silence. No crickets, no wind, no sounds of the horses shifting in the corral. Just emptiness, like the world was holding its breath. Emma sat up, her heart already racing. Something was wrong. She grabbed the robe Ryan had given her and moved to the bedroom door, opening it slowly. The main room was dark, except for the dying embers in the fireplace. Ryan's bedroll was empty. Fear spiked through her chest. She grabbed the rifle from beside her bed and moved to the window, peering out into the darkness. Nothing. Just shadows and moonlight. Then she saw it. A flicker of orange in the barn. Fire. Emma ran outside barefoot, her robe flying behind her. The barn door was open, and inside flames were already climbing the walls, feeding on dry hay and old wood. The horses were screaming, trapped in their stalls. "Ryan!" she shouted. No answer. Emma plunged into the smoke, coughing, her eyes burning. She found the first stall and threw it open. The mare bolted past her toward freedom. She moved to the second stall, then the third, releasing horses that were wild with panic. The smoke was getting thicker. Emma could barely breathe, could barely see. She stumbled toward what she thought was the exit and ran straight into a solid chest. Hands grabbed her shoulders. "Get out!" Ryan's voice, rough with smoke. "The horses are out! Move!" He pushed her toward the door. Emma stumbled into the night air, gasping, and Ryan came out behind her, just as part of the roof collapsed with a shower of sparks. They stood there, watching the barn burn, both of them coughing and covered in soot. "This was deliberate," Emma said when she could speak. "I know." Ryan's voice was flat, cold. "Found footprints. 3 men, maybe 4. They set the fire and ran. We should get the sheriff." "Wade?" Ryan laughed bitterly. "He probably lit the match himself." Emma wanted to argue, but could not. He was right. The law in Red Hollow was not there to protect them. They spent the rest of the night watching the barn burn to the ground. By dawn, all that remained was a smoking skeleton of charred beams and ash. The horses had scattered, but were safe, grazing nervously in the far pasture. Ryan stood amid the ruins, his face unreadable. "They are escalating," Emma said quietly. "Next time, it might be the house. It might be us." "I know. So what do we do?" Ryan turned to her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. It was the look of a man who had made a decision he could not take back. "We hit back," he said. Emma's stomach dropped. "Ryan. Not with violence, not yet." He moved closer. "But they need to understand that burning us out has consequences, real ones. What kind of consequences? The kind that hurt their wallets. Ryan's jaw tightened. Crawford owns the feed store. Mercer owns the saloon. Both of them depend on ranchers and drovers coming through town. What if those people started going somewhere else? Emma frowned. How would we make that happen? By talking to them, by showing them that Red Hollow is not the only option. He looked at her. You still want to teach? The question caught her off guard. Yes, of course. Then teach. Start small. 1 or 2 ranch kids whose parents do not live in town. Word spreads. Pretty soon, you have got students again, and their families are asking questions about why Red Hollow ran you out. Ryan's eyes were sharp. Meanwhile, I start doing business with ranchers directly. Cut out the middlemen in town. Show people there is another way. Emma turned it over in her mind. It was risky. It would take time. But it was smarter than violence, smarter than revenge. It could work, she said slowly. It will work. Might take months, but it will work. And in the meantime, while we are building this up, we stay alert, we stay armed, and we do not give them another easy target. Emma looked at the ruined barn, then back at Ryan. His face was smudged with soot, his eyes red from smoke, but there was steel in his expression. This was a man who had survived a war and its aftermath. He would not break easily. Neither would she. Okay, she said. Let us do it. The next week was brutal. Ryan worked from dawn to dusk, clearing the barn wreckage and starting to rebuild. Emma helped when she could, but mostly she focused on the plan. She wrote letters to families she knew lived on outlying ranches, offering to teach their children. She kept the letters simple, honest. No mention of Red Hollow or what had happened. Just an offer. 3 families responded. 2 said no, politely but firmly. The third, a family named Morrison, living 15 miles north, said yes. They had 2 daughters, ages 8 and 10, who had never had formal schooling. Emma rode out to meet them alone. Ryan had offered to come, but she had refused. This needed to be her doing, her risk. The Morrison ranch was smaller than Ryan's, but well kept. A sturdy house, a decent barn, fields that looked productive. Mrs. Morrison met Emma at the door, a tired-looking woman in her 40s with kind eyes and work-roughened hands. Mrs. Hale, she said, come in. Inside, the 2 girls sat at the kitchen table, watching Emma with curiosity. The older one, Rebecca, had her mother's dark hair. The younger, Mary, was blonde and freckled. I appreciate you coming all this way, Mrs. Morrison said, pouring coffee. Truth is, I have been worried about the girls. They are smart, but without schooling. I understand, Emma said. I can teach them reading, writing, arithmetic, basic history, and geography if they are interested. What do you charge? Emma hesitated. She needed the money, but she also needed this to work. $1 a week for both girls, if that is too much? That is more than fair. Mrs. Morrison glanced at her daughters. When can you start? Tomorrow, if you would like. They settled on 3 days a week, mornings only. Emma would ride out, teach for 3 hours, then ride back. It was not much, but it was a start. As Emma prepared to leave, Mrs. Morrison walked her to her horse. I heard what happened in town, she said quietly, with the school and the council. My husband and I do not hold with that kind of treatment. You seem like a decent woman, and the girls need an education. Emma's throat tightened. Thank you. Just be careful. The men who run Red Hollow, they do not like being challenged. I know. Good, because they will come after you again. And next time, it might not be just a barn. Emma rode home with those words echoing in her head. She knew Mrs. Morrison was right. But what choice did she have? Run? Hide? Let Red Hollow win? No, she had come too far for that. When she got back to the ranch, Ryan was working on the new barn frame. He looked up when she dismounted. How did it go? I start tomorrow, 3 days a week. Something like pride flickered across his face. Good, that is good. Emma tied up her horse and joined him at the barn site. How is this coming? Slow, but it is coming. He wiped sweat from his forehead. Had a visitor while you were gone. Emma tensed. Who? Man named Garrett. Runs cattle about 20 miles west. Heard about the fire. Wanted to offer help. Ryan picked up his hammer. Also wanted to talk business. Says he is tired of Crawford's prices at the feed store. Asked if I would be willing to broker a deal directly with the supplier in Denver. Will you? Already sent a telegram. Ryan drove a nail with 3 precise strikes. If it works out, Garrett spreads the word to other ranchers. Crawford loses business. Simple. Emma watched him work. This man who had married her out of necessity and was now fighting her battles like they were his own. She wanted to say something, thank him, acknowledge what he was doing, but the words felt inadequate. Instead, she picked up a board and held it steady while he nailed it in place. They worked together in silence until the sun started setting. Teaching the Morrison girls was easier than Emma expected. They were eager, attentive, hungry for knowledge. Rebecca had a natural gift for reading, devouring every book Emma brought. Mary struggled more, but made up for it with determination. Emma fell into a routine. 3 days a week with the Morrisons, the other days helping Ryan with the ranch and working on her own garden. The work was hard, but it felt purposeful in a way her life in Red Hollow never had. Word spread. By the end of the month, 2 more families had contacted her. By the end of the second month, she was teaching 9 students across 4 ranches. Meanwhile, Ryan's business was growing too. The deal with the Denver supplier had worked out, and 3 ranchers had already switched from Crawford's feed store to buying through Ryan. It was not enough to bankrupt Crawford, but it was enough to hurt. Emma could feel the shift. They were not victims anymore. They were becoming something else, a threat. Red Hollow noticed. She was riding home from the Morrison ranch on a Thursday afternoon when she saw the riders, 3 of them, blocking the road ahead. She recognized 2 immediately, Tom Mercer and Deputy Wade. The third was a stranger, a hard-faced man with a scar down his cheek. Emma's hand moved to the rifle strapped to her saddle. Ryan had insisted she carry it everywhere now. She was glad she had listened. "Mrs. Hale," Mercer called out. "We need to talk. It is—" Emma reined in her horse, but did not dismount. "I am listening. You are causing problems, you and that husband of yours. We are conducting business. That is not illegal." "It is when you are stealing from honest merchants," Wade snapped. "I am not stealing anything. I am offering a service. If people prefer it to what Red Hollow offers, that is their—" The stranger spoke for the first time. His voice was rough, like gravel in a tin cup. "You know who I am?" "Should I?" "Name is Pike. I work for Mr. Mercer. Handle problems." Emma's blood went cold. "Is that a threat?" "It is information." Pike urged his horse forward a few steps. Emma's hand tightened on the rifle. "See, Mr. Mercer and his associates, they have been patient. They have tried the nice approach, but you are not getting the message." "The message being that I should give up and leave?" "The message being that there are consequences for disrupting the natural order of things." Emma laughed, sharp and bitter. "The natural order? You mean the order where men like you decide who gets to live and who gets pushed out?" "Call it what you want." Pike's smile was cold. "Point is, You are making powerful people angry. That is dangerous. So is blocking someone's path and making threats. Emma met his eyes. Now move, or I will move you. Pike's smile widened. You will not shoot. You willing to bet your life on that? For a long moment, nobody moved. The tension stretched tight as a wire. Emma's heart was hammering, but her hands stayed steady on the rifle. Then he laughed and turned his horse. We will be seeing you, Mrs. Hale. They rode off, leaving Emma alone on the road, shaking with adrenaline and fury. When she got home, Ryan took one look at her face and knew. What happened? Emma told him everything. With each word, Ryan's expression grew darker. Pike, he said when she finished. I know that name. He is a hired gun. Mercer must be getting desperate if he is bringing in outside muscle. What do we do? Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, we accelerate the timeline, hit them harder, faster, before they have time to organize. How? I have got contacts, men I served with during the war who owe me favors. One of them runs a freight company. I can get him to start routing through the ranches instead of through Red Hollow. Cut the town out entirely for supplies coming from the south. Emma's eyes widened. That would hit half the businesses in town. I know. Ryan, that is war. He met her eyes. That is what this is, Emma. They started it when they ran you out of town. They escalated it when they burned our barn. Now they are threatening you with a hired gun. This is not about business anymore. It is survival. Emma wanted to argue, wanted to find another way, but looking at Ryan's face, she knew he was right. They were past the point of peaceful solutions. Do it, she said. Ryan sent the telegram the next morning. 3 days later, he got a response. His contact would reroute the freight effective immediately. Within a week, the impact would be felt. Emma waited for the retaliation. It came faster than expected. She was teaching at the Morrison Ranch when Rebecca looked out the window and gasped. Mrs. Hale, there is smoke. Emma ran to the window. In the distance, toward Red Hollow, a thick column of black smoke rose into the sky. Her heart stopped. That is our direction. She gathered her things and rode hard, fear clawing at her chest. What if they had burned the house this time? What if Ryan? She crested the ridge and saw it. Not their ranch, the old Hutchinson place, a mile east, abandoned for years, but close enough to be a message. Next time, it will be you. Ryan was already there, standing in front of the burning building with 3 other men, ranchers from the area. One of them was Garrett, the cattleman. They are sending a message, Garrett said as Emma dismounted. Hutchinson's boy told me he saw riders this morning, 4 men wearing masks. Pike, Emma said. Ryan nodded. Probably. We need to do something, another rancher said. His name was Sullivan, a gray-haired man with steady eyes. This is getting out of hand. What do you suggest? Ryan asked. Go to Wade. He is probably one of the men in those masks. Then we handle it ourselves. That is vigilante justice. Better than no justice at all. The men argued while the Hutchinson place burned. Emma watched them, frustration building in her chest. They were talking in circles, getting nowhere. Enough, she said. They all turned to look at her. This is not about justice, Emma continued. It is about power. Red Hollow's leaders are losing control, and they are lashing out. The more we fight back the traditional way, the more violent they will get. Then what do you suggest? Sullivan asked. We go public. We make this impossible to ignore. Emma's mind was racing. There is a territorial marshal who makes rounds through this area. When is he due next? Garrett frowned. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Then we document everything. Every attack, every threat, every piece of evidence we can find. And when the marshal arrives, we present him with a case so clear he cannot ignore it. They will just pay him off, Sullivan said. Maybe, but if we get enough ranchers to testify, enough families to stand up, it becomes harder to sweep under the rug. Emma looked at each of them. We have been fighting as individuals. We need to fight as a community. Ryan was watching her with something like admiration. That could work. It is risky, Garrett said. We would be painting targets on all our backs. We already have targets on our backs, Emma shot back. At least this way, we might actually accomplish something. The men looked at each other. Then, one by one, they nodded. I am in, Sullivan said. Me too, Garrett added. Then let us get started, Emma said. Over the next 2 weeks, Emma became a conductor of sorts, coordinating between the ranching families, documenting incidents, collecting testimonies. She rode from ranch to ranch, notebook in hand, writing down everything people were willing to share. Stories emerged. A rancher whose cattle had been mysteriously poisoned after he had stopped buying from Crawford's store. A widow who had been harassed by Wade until she had agreed to sell her land at half its value. A shopkeeper in Red Hollow who had tried to stand up to Mercer and had been run out of business. The pattern was clear. Red Hollow's leadership had been using intimidation and violence for years to maintain control. Emma and Ryan were just the latest targets, but they were also the first to fight back this effectively. The day before the marshal was due to arrive, Emma and Ryan sat at their kitchen table, surrounded by papers and testimonies. Emma's hand ached from writing, and her eyes burned from reading by lamplight. This is good, Ryan said, reviewing the documents. This is really good. If the marshal is even halfway honest, he will have to act. And if he is not, then we are in trouble. Ryan set down the papers. But at least we tried. Emma rubbed her eyes. I keep thinking about what happens if this works. If they actually arrest Crawford and Mercer and the others. What does Red Hollow become without them? Something better, hopefully. Or something worse. Power vacuums are dangerous. Ryan reached across the table and took her hand. It was the first time he had done that, and Emma's breath caught. One fight at a time, he said quietly. We survive this one first, then we worry about what comes next. Emma looked down at their joined hands. His was rough, scarred, warm, solid. Thank you, she said, for all of this, for fighting with me. You do not need to thank me. Yes, I do. Emma met his eyes. You could have walked away, could have told me this was not your problem. But you did not. You stood with me. That means something. Ryan's thumb brushed across her knuckles, gentle. You are my wife, Emma. That makes it my problem automatically. Is that the only reason? He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, No, it is not. Then what is the other reason? Because somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing this as an obligation and started seeing it as a choice. And I chose you. Emma's heart hammered in her chest. Ryan! A gunshot shattered the window. Glass exploded inward. Emma screamed, ducking instinctively. Ryan overturned the table, creating a barrier, and pulled her behind it. You hit? He shouted. No. You. I am fine. Another shot, then another. Bullets punched through the walls, splintered wood, sent splinters flying. Ryan grabbed his rifle from beside the fireplace. Stay down! He moved to the window, keeping low, and fired back. The sound was deafening in the small cabin. Emma's ears rang. Her hands shook, but her mind was clear. This was it. The fight they had been preparing for. She crawled to the bedroom, grabbed her own rifle, checked that it was loaded. When she came back, Ryan was reloading. "How many?" she asked. "At least 4. Maybe more. They are spread out, Bukos said spread out, using the trees for cover. What do? We hold them off until they get bored or dawn comes, whichever happens first." Another volley of gunfire. Emma pressed herself against the wall, her heart racing so fast she thought it might explode. Then she heard something else. Hoofbeats, coming fast. "Someone is coming," she said. Ryan risked a look out the window. His expression changed. "It is Garrett and Sullivan," and he laughed, short and disbelieving. "Half the ranchers from the area." Hope surged through Emma's chest. They came. They came. The gunfire outside changed pitch. Shouts now. Confusion. The attackers had not expected reinforcements. Ryan moved to the door. "Stay here." Like hell. She followed him onto the porch. In the moonlight, she could see riders circling the property, hemming in the attackers. Garrett fired a shot into the air. "That is enough," he shouted. "Drop your weapons or we drop you." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, 4 men stepped out from the trees, hands raised. Emma recognized Pike immediately. The others were strangers, hired guns probably. Ryan kept his rifle trained on them. "Who sent you?" Pike smiled, bloody where he had bitten his lip. "Go to hell." "Fair enough." Ryan looked at Garrett. "Tie them up. The marshal can deal with them tomorrow." Emma leaned against the porch railing, suddenly dizzy. They had survived. Barely, but they had survived. Garrett approached, his face grim. "We saw the smoke earlier. Figured they would hit someone tonight. Took a gamble it would be you." "Thank you," Emma managed. "Do not thank us yet. This is not over." But looking at the captured men, at the ranchers standing together, Emma felt something shift. Maybe it was not over. But for the first time since arriving in Red Hollow, she believed they might actually win. The marshal arrived at dawn with 4 deputies and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone and disappointment. His name was Clayton, and he wore his authority like a man who had long since stopped expecting people to respect it. Emma stood on the porch with Ryan, watching Clayton dismount. Behind them, the captured gunmen sat bound and bruised in the barn, guarded by Sullivan and 2 other ranchers. The morning was cold, the sky the pale gray that promised nothing good. Clayton's eyes swept over the bullet-riddled cabin, the shattered windows, the blood on the porch where one of Pike's men had been grazed. "Mrs. Hale," he said, tipping his hat. "Mr. Hale, I understand there was an incident." "That is one way to put it," Ryan said. Emma stepped forward, holding the folder of documents they had compiled. "Marshal Clayton, we have testimony from 14 families detailing a pattern of intimidation, assault, arson, and attempted murder, orchestrated by Red Hollow's town leadership." Clayton took the folder but did not open it. "That is a serious accusation." "It is a serious situation." Emma kept her voice steady. 4 armed men attacked our home last night. We have them in custody, along with witnesses who saw them come from the direction of Red Hollow. And you believe they were sent by whom exactly? Tom Mercer, Ben Crawford, and Deputy Wade, among others, Ryan said flatly. Clayton's jaw tightened. "You are accusing a sitting deputy of conspiracy to commit murder." "I am stating facts." "Facts require proof, Mr. Hale." "It is all in the folder," Emma said. "Names, dates, witness statements, everything documented." Clayton finally opened the folder. His expression did not change as he read, but Emma saw his knuckles whiten where he gripped the pages. After what felt like an eternity, he closed it. "This is thorough," he admitted, "but it is also complicated. Some of these people you are accusing are pillars of the community. Pillars built on violence and corruption." Emma shot back. "Maybe so, But proving it in a court of law is different from writing it down in a notebook. Clayton looked tired. I will take the hired guns into custody. I will question them. But unless they talk, unless I can tie them directly to Mercer and the others, my hands are tied. So we did all this for nothing. Emma's voice rose. Gathered evidence, risked our lives, and you are saying it might not matter? I am saying the law moves slow, Mrs. Hale, and men with money and influence know how to use that to their advantage. Ryan stepped forward, and there was something dangerous in his posture. If the law will not handle this, we will. That sounds like a threat. It is a promise. Clayton met Ryan's eyes, and for a moment, Emma saw something pass between them. An understanding, maybe, or a warning. Do not do anything stupid, Clayton said quietly. Give me time to work this properly. Going vigilante will only make you the criminals. And if we wait, we might end up dead. That is a risk you will have to weigh. Clayton gathered his deputies and the prisoners. Within an hour, they were gone, leaving Emma and Ryan standing in the wreckage of their home. He is not going to do anything, Emma said. You know that, right? I know. So what now? Ryan looked toward Red Hollow, hidden beyond the ridge. Now we make them understand that there are consequences. Real ones. Emma's stomach tightened. What are you planning? Nothing violent. Not yet. He turned to her. But information is power, Emma. And I am betting Red Hollow's leadership has secrets they would rather keep buried. We just need to dig them up. How? There is someone in town who might help. Someone who has reason to hate Mercer as much as we do. Emma frowned. Who? His wife. The idea was insane, but the more Emma thought about it, the more sense it made. Rebecca Mercer was a ghost in Red Hollow. Rarely seen, never heard. The town whispered about her, how she had been a beauty once, how Tom Mercer had married her for her father's land, how she had faded into nothing over the years. She will not help us, Emma said. She is probably terrified of him. Probably. But terrified people sometimes make the bravest choices when you give them the right reason. They rode into Red Hollow 2 days later. The town was quiet, subdued. Word had spread about the attack and the marshal's visit. People watched from windows and doorways, but did not approach. Emma felt their stares like physical weight. They tied their horses outside the general store. Martha Green came to the door, wringing her hands. Mrs. Hale, I do not think you should be here. We are not here to cause trouble, Mrs. Green. We just need to speak with Rebecca Mercer. Martha's face went pale. You cannot. Tom is not here, Ryan said. He had checked before they had come. Mercer was at the saloon conducting business. We just want to talk, that is all. Martha looked between them, clearly torn. Then she nodded. She is upstairs, but please be quick. They found Rebecca Mercer in a small sitting room above the store. She was younger than Emma expected, maybe 35, with dark hair going gray at the temples and eyes that had seen too much. When she saw them, fear flickered across her face. I do not want trouble, she said immediately. Neither do we, Emma said gently. We just want to talk. About what? Emma glanced at Ryan, then back at Rebecca. About your husband. About what he has done. Rebecca's hands twisted in her lap. I do not know what you mean. Yes, you do. Emma sat down across from her, keeping her voice soft. You know exactly what I mean. The intimidation, the violence, the way he uses people and throws them away when he is done. I cannot. Rebecca's voice broke. I cannot talk about this. If he finds out, we will protect you. Rebecca laughed, bitter and broken. Protect me? You cannot even protect yourselves. Do you know what my husband said when he heard about the attack on your ranch? He laughed, said it was about time someone taught you your place. Emma's blood ran cold. He admitted to sending them? Not in so many words, but I know him. I know how he operates. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. He has been doing this for years, threatening people, hurting them. There was a man once, a shopkeeper who tried to compete with the saloon. Tom burned his store down. The sheriff, Wade, he ruled it an accident. Do you have proof? Ryan asked. I have letters, documents, things Tom thought he had hidden well enough. Rebecca wiped her eyes. I have been collecting them for 3 years, ever since our daughter died. Emma's heart clenched. I did not know you had a daughter, Mary. She was 6. She got sick, and Tom refused to pay for the doctor from Denver. Said the local man was good enough. He was not. Rebecca's voice was flat, dead. She died in pain, and Tom did not even attend the funeral, too busy with the saloon. Silence settled over the room like ash. I am sorry, Emma said quietly. Everyone is sorry, but sorry does not bring her back. Rebecca stood and moved to a locked cabinet. She pulled out a key from around her neck and opened it. Inside were stacks of papers, letters, ledgers. This is everything, she said. Proof of bribes, blackmail, illegal land deals. Enough to put Tom and half the town council in prison. She looked at Emma. Take it. Use it. Burn him to the ground. Emma took the documents with shaking hands. Come with us. If he finds out you gave us these, he will kill me. I know, Rebecca smiled, and it was the saddest thing Emma had ever seen. But at least Mary will have justice. That is more than most people get. Rebecca, go. Please, before he comes back. They left the documents hidden in Emma's saddlebag and rode hard for the ranch. Emma's mind was reeling. They had real evidence now, solid documented proof of corruption and conspiracy. But they also had a target on their backs bigger than ever before. When they got home, they spread the documents across the table. Page after page of corruption, bribes paid to the previous marshal, land deeds forged, a ledger showing Wade receiving regular payments from Mercer for security services. And at the bottom of the stack, something that made Emma's blood freeze. A deed to her property. The cabin she had lived in. The land Michael had supposedly purchased. Except according to this document, Michael had never actually bought it. The sale had been fraudulent. The deed forged by Crawford and witnessed by Wade. The land was worth nothing, or so they had told Michael. But there was a second document, a geological survey showing significant silver deposits on the property. They knew, Emma whispered. They knew the whole time. Ryan read over her shoulder, his body tense. They sold your husband worthless land, except it was not worthless. Then they waited for him to die so they could take it back. That is why they wanted me gone, not because I was a widow teaching their children, because I owned land they wanted. Emma's hands shook. They were going to force me out, take the property, and mine the silver themselves. And when you married me instead of running, you became a real problem. Emma stood, pacing. This changes everything. This is not just about corruption. This is theft, fraud, possibly murder. You think they killed your husband? I do not know. Michael died of fever. At least that is what they told me. Emma pressed her hands to her head. But now I am wondering. The timing was convenient. Very convenient. Ryan gathered the documents carefully. We take this to Clayton. Even if he is hesitant about the other charges, this is clear-cut fraud. He cannot ignore it. What if he is in on it too? Then we go over his head. Take it to the territorial governor if we have to. Ryan's jaw was set. But one way or another, Emma, you are getting what is yours. They did not have to wait for Clayton. He came to them. 3 days after their visit to Rebecca Mercer, the marshal rode up with his deputies, but this time his expression was different, harder, determined. "I need to speak with you both," he said without preamble. Inside, Emma made coffee while Clayton paced. When he finally sat, he looked at them with something like respect. "Pike talked," he said. "Took some convincing, but he talked. Admitted that Mercer hired him and the others. Gave us dates, amounts paid, instructions received." Emma's heart leaped. "That is enough to arrest Mercer." "It would be, except Mercer has disappeared." "What?" "Left town 3 days ago. His wife says he is on business in Denver, but I do not believe it. I think someone warned him." Clayton's eyes were sharp. "You would not know anything about that, would you?" "We spoke to Rebecca Mercer," Emma admitted. "She gave us documents proving her husband's corruption. We were bringing them to you." "Documents?" Clayton's voice was flat. "What kind of documents?" Emma retrieved them from the bedroom. Clayton read through them, his expression growing darker with each page. When he reached the land deed and survey, he swore. "This is fraud. Clear documented fraud." He looked at Emma. "You own land with silver deposits, Mrs. Hale. Substantial deposits, according to this survey." "I did not know." "They made sure you did not." Clayton stood. "This complicates things. With Mercer gone, we are going to have trouble building a case. But with these documents, we can at least freeze his assets, investigate the land deals. What about Crawford and Wade? I will bring them in for questioning. But without Mercer to point fingers at them, it will be harder to make charges stick." Emma felt frustration rising. "So they might get away with it?" "Some of them might. That is how this works sometimes." Clayton's voice softened slightly. "But you will get your land, Mrs. Hale, and Red Hollow will know the truth. That is not nothing." After Clayton left with the documents, Emma stood at the window staring toward town. Ryan came up behind her, close but not touching. "We did not win," she said. "We did not lose either. Mercer is free. Crawford and Wade might walk. The people who tried to destroy us get to live their lives. For now." Ryan's voice was quiet, dangerous. "But word spread. People talk, and men who run when things get hard. They leave enemies behind. Mercer will slip up eventually. They all do." Emma turned to face him. "Is that enough for you? Waiting for karma to maybe catch up with them?" "No, but it is better than becoming what they are." Ryan touched her face, gentle. "We won the important fight, Emma. You are safe. You have your land. You have a future." "We have a future," Emma corrected. Something shifted in Ryan's expression. "Yeah, we do." He kissed her then, soft and careful, like he was afraid she might break. Emma kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt, and for the first time since Michael had died, she felt something other than survival. She felt hope. The next weeks were a blur of legal proceedings and town gossip. Clayton arrested Wade for accepting bribes, and Crawford for fraud. Both had denied everything, but the evidence was damning. They would likely serve time, though probably not as much as they deserved. Rebecca Mercer left Red Hollow the day after her husband disappeared. She took nothing but a small bag and the photograph of her daughter. Emma heard later that she had gone east to family in Pennsylvania. She hoped the woman found peace. The silver mine on Emma's property was surveyed properly, and the estimates came back staggering. She was, according to the Denver assessor, sitting on one of the richest deposits in the territory. "You are wealthy," Ryan said when they got the news. They were sitting on the porch watching the sunset. "Really wealthy." Emma laughed, almost disbelieving. "I went from barely scraping by to wealthy. It does not feel real." "What are you going to do with it?" "I do not know." She looked at him. "What do you think I should do?" It is your money, Emma. It is our money. We are married, remember? Ryan's expression was complicated. I did not marry you for money. I know. You married me because I was desperate, and you are a decent man pretending not to be. Emma took his hand. But the money is real, and we get to decide what to do with it together. They sat in silence, fingers intertwined. I want to rebuild the school, Emma said finally. A real one, not the falling down building in Red Hollow. Something good, something that lasts. And I want to pay teachers properly so they do not have to choose between their principles and survival. That is a good use of it, Abide. And I want to help the ranching families, the ones who stood with us. Equipment, supplies, whatever they need. Also good. Emma looked at him. What do you want, Ryan? He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I want to finish rebuilding the barn, maybe add a few rooms to the house. It is pretty small for 2 people, and I want to keep ranching. It is the only thing I have ever been good at that does not involve killing. You are good at other things too. Like what? Protecting people, being kind when you think no one is looking, making me feel safe. Ryan's throat worked. Emma, I love you, she said. The words came out simple, honest. I did not think I would, did not think I could. But somewhere between you watching me from that ridge and you standing with me through all of this, it happened, and I thought you should know. Ryan stared at her like she had just spoken a foreign language. Then he pulled her close, his arms solid around her, his face buried in her hair. I love you too, he said, voice rough. Loved you since the day you climbed that ridge to yell at me for watching you. Thought you were the bravest damn thing I'd ever seen. Emma laughed and cried at the same time. We are a mess. Yeah, but we are a mess together. They sat like that as the sun bled out across the horizon. 2 broken people who had found each other in the worst circumstances and somehow made it work. Red Hollow changed slowly after that. With Wade in jail and Crawford awaiting trial, the town council was in chaos. Mayor Whitaker resigned, citing health concerns. Several families who had been loyal to the old guard left town looking for fresh starts. New people moved in. Better people. Mostly. Ranchers, small business owners, families looking for opportunity. Emma's school opened 6 months after the attack. It was a beautiful building, well built and properly equipped with 3 classrooms and a small library. She hired 2 other teachers, women who believed in education and did not care about politics. Enrollment was strong. 23 students the first month, 35 by the end of the first term. Jake Crawford was one of them. His father, awaiting trial, had lost the feed store. Jake and his mother were living in a small house on the edge of town, struggling, but surviving. Emma did not charge them tuition. Jake worked hard, asked smart questions, and never mentioned his father's crimes. The mine was developed carefully with Ryan overseeing operations to make sure everything was done properly. They hired local workers, paid fair wages, and invested profits back into the community. Red Hollow began to prosper, not because of corruption or fear, but because of honest work and decent treatment. It was not perfect. There were still people who resented Emma, who whispered that she had gotten above her station, that she had manipulated her way into wealth. But those voices grew quieter as the months passed, drowned out by the voices of children learning, families thriving, and a community healing. One evening, as Emma was locking up the school, she saw a figure on horseback watching from the ridge. For a moment, her heart stopped. Then she recognized the horse, the posture. Ryan. He was doing what he had done months ago, watching over her. But now it felt different. Not like a stranger keeping guard, but like a husband making sure his wife got home safe. Emma smiled and waved. Ryan tipped his hat and rode down to meet her. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Emma mounted her horse. "Yeah, let us go home." They rode together through the gathering dusk, past the town that had tried to break them and failed, toward the ranch that had become more than shelter. It had become theirs. The frontier was still hard, still unforgiving, still full of people who take what they can and give nothing back. But Emma had learned something important. Some people do not break, and some people, when they find each other, become unbreakable. Winter came hard that year, arriving early and mean. Snow fell in thick sheets, covering the territory in white silence. The mine shut down until spring, and Red Hollow hunkered down for the long, cold months ahead. Emma stood at the schoolhouse window, watching her students file out into the snow. School was dismissed early today. The storm was getting worse, and she wanted the children home before the roads became impassable. Jake Crawford lingered at his desk, packing his books slowly. "Something on your mind, Jake?" Emma asked. The boy looked up, and there was something haunted in his eyes. "My pa got sentenced yesterday. 7 years. Emma's chest tightened. She had known the trial had concluded, but she had not heard the verdict. "I am sorry." "Do not be." Jake's voice was flat. "He earned it. He stopped, swallowed hard. "I just wish I understood why. Why he did all those things. Why he needed to hurt people." Emma sat down at the desk beside him. Sometimes people convince themselves that the ends justify the means. That if they are successful, powerful, respected, then how they got there does not matter. Does it work? Do they ever actually believe that? I do not know. I think mostly they just get very good at not thinking about it. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I do not want to be like him." "You will not be." "How do you know?" "Because you are asking the question. Your father never did." Emma touched his shoulder gently. "You get to choose who you become, Jake. Every day you get to choose. That is more power than most people realize they have." The boy nodded, wiped his eyes quickly, and stood. "Thank you, Mrs. Hale, for everything." After he left, Emma finished closing up the school. Outside, the snow was falling harder now, the wind picking up. She mounted her horse and started for home, pulling her coat tight against the cold. The ride took longer than usual, the wind fighting her every step. By the time she reached the ranch, her hands were numb, and her face felt like frozen leather. Ryan came out of the barn as she dismounted, taking her horse's reins. "You are half frozen," he said, concern etched in his face. "I am fine. Just need to warm up. Get inside. I will handle the horse." Emma did not argue. She stumbled into the cabin where the fire was already roaring. She shed her wet coat and boots, then stood in front of the flames trying to feel her fingers again. Ryan came in a few minutes later, stamping snow off his boots. "Storm is getting worse," he said. "We might be snowed in for a few days." "We have enough supplies?" "Plenty. I stocked up last week." He moved to the stove, started making coffee. "Heard about Crawford's sentencing. Jake told me. 7 years. Could have been worse. Could have been better." Ryan poured 2 cups, handed her one. "How is the kid handling it?" "Better than expected. He is strong. He had a good teacher." Emma smiled despite herself. "His mother did most of the work. I just gave him a place to learn." They settled into their evening routine. Dinner, quiet conversation. The comfortable silence of 2 people who had learned each other's rhythms. Outside, the wind howled and the snow piled higher, but inside was warm and safe. Later, as they lay in bed together, a development that had happened gradually over the past months, neither quite sure when Emma had stopped sleeping in the bedroom and started sharing Ryan's space by the fire. Emma stared at the ceiling and thought about the past year. So much had changed. So much had been fought for and won and lost and rebuilt. "You are thinking too loud," Ryan murmured beside her. "Sorry." "What is on your mind?" Emma turned to face him. In the dim firelight, his scars were shadows, his expression soft. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had made different choices? If I had left Red Hollow instead of marrying you?" "Sometimes, but not as much as I used to." "Why not?" "Because wondering about other paths does not change the one you are on." His hand found hers under the blanket. "And I like where this path ended up. Even with everything that happened, the attacks, the danger, all of it. Especially because of that." Ryan's voice was quiet, certain. "Before you, I was just existing, going through motions. Now I am living. There is a difference." Emma squeezed his hand. "I feel the same way." They fell asleep like that, hands clasped, the storm raging outside and peace inside. The snow stopped 3 days later, leaving the world buried under 2 feet of white. Ryan spent those days checking on the horses, reinforcing the new barn against the weight of snow, chopping enough firewood to last through another storm. Emma graded papers, planned lessons, and went through the mine's financial reports. The numbers were staggering. Even with conservative estimates, the silver deposits would generate wealth for generations. She had been thinking about what to do with that wealth. The school was funded. The ranching families had been helped. But there was more that could be done. More ways to make Red Hollow into something better than what it had been. On the 4th day after the storm, Marshal Clayton arrived with news. "Tom Mercer is dead," he said without preamble, standing in their doorway covered in snow. Emma's stomach dropped. "What happened?" "Got himself killed in Denver. Bar fight, apparently. Pulled a gun on the wrong man." Clayton's expression was unreadable. "Man he pulled on was faster." Ryan leaned against the doorframe. "You believe that? Does it matter? He is dead either way. It matters if someone killed him to keep him quiet." Clayton was silent for a moment. Then he said, "The man who shot him was a professional gambler. No connection to Red Hollow that I could find. Sometimes a bar fight is just a bar fight. And sometimes it is convenient," Emma said quietly. "Maybe, but we will never know for sure." Clayton shifted his weight. "There is something else. Mercer had debts, significant ones. When he ran, he left his business to his wife, but she had already abandoned it. The saloon and everything else is being auctioned to cover what he owed." Emma and Ryan exchanged glances. "Who is handling the auction?" Ryan asked. "Territorial Bank. It is all above board this time. I made sure of it." Clayton pulled out a paper. "Thought you might want to know. Auction is in 2 weeks." After Clayton left, Emma and Ryan sat at the table, the auction notice between them. "You are thinking about buying it," Ryan said. It was not a question. "I am thinking about what Red Hollow needs, and what it needs is not another saloon." "What does it need?" Emma looked at the paper, her mind racing. "A community center, a place where people can gather for things other than drinking. Town meetings, social events, celebrations. Somewhere that brings people together instead of driving them apart." Ryan smiled slowly. "That is ambitious. So was surviving the past year. Fair point." They went to the auction together. The Territorial Bank had set up in what used to be the town hall, and the room was packed with people. Curious townspeople, opportunistic buyers from Denver, local business owners looking to expand. Emma felt the weight of their stares as she walked in. She was no longer the desperate widow teacher. She was Emma Hale, owner of the richest silver mine in the territory, wife to the man most people still feared, and someone who had helped bring down Red Hollow's corrupt leadership. She carried that weight differently now, not with shame, but with purpose. The auctioneer was a thin man, with a voice like a rusty hinge. He worked through several small properties before getting to the main event. Next item, the Red Hollow Saloon and attached properties. Fine establishment, prime location, fully equipped. We will start the bidding at $500. 500, called a man Emma did not recognize, probably from Denver. 600, said another voice. The bidding climbed quickly. Emma waited, watching the numbers rise. When it hit 1,500, most people dropped out. 1,500 going once. 3,000, Emma said clearly. The room went silent. Every head turned. The auctioneer blinked. 3,000? 3,000. The man from Denver who had been bidding looked at her, then at Ryan standing behind her, and wisely decided not to compete. 3,000 going once, going twice, sold to Mrs. Emma Hale. Emma paid in cash, the money from the mine's first dividends. As she signed the papers, she felt the shift in the room. Fear? Maybe. Resentment. But also something else. Curiosity. Wonder about what she would do with it. She did not keep them wondering long. The next day, Emma stood outside the saloon with a crew of workers Ryan had hired. They had spent the morning pulling down the gaudy sign and tearing out the bar. "You sure about this?" Ryan asked, watching the demolition. "Completely sure." Over the next 2 months, they transformed the building. Out went the bar, the gambling tables, the dim corners where deals were made and secrets traded. In came windows, big ones that let in light. Long tables for community dinners, a small stage for performances and town meetings, shelves for a lending library, a kitchen for communal cooking. Emma worked alongside the construction crew when she was not teaching, painting walls and sanding floors. Her hands got rough and her back ached, but she did not stop. The townspeople watched the transformation with mixed reactions. Some were grateful, seeing it as a sign of new possibilities. Others saw it as Emma throwing her weight around, imposing her vision in a town that had not asked for it. Emma did not care about the second group. She had learned something important over the past year. You could not please everyone, and trying to would destroy you. The community center opened on a cold March evening. Emma had sent invitations to every family in Red Hollow and the surrounding ranches. She did not know how many would come. As the sun set, people started arriving. Hesitantly at first, then in larger groups. Families Emma knew from the school, ranchers who had stood with them during the fight, even some of the townspeople who had been part of the old guard, curious despite themselves. The building filled with conversation, laughter, the smell of food from the communal kitchen. Children ran between the tables while their parents talked. Someone brought a fiddle and started playing. Emma stood at the edge of it all, watching. Ryan found her there. "You did good." "We did good," she corrected. "Mostly you." He put his arm around her waist. "This is what you wanted, is it not? A place where people belong." "Yeah, it is." Jake Crawford approached, his mother beside him. Mrs. Crawford was thin, worn down by the past year, but there was something lighter in her expression now. "Mrs. Hale," she said quietly, "I wanted to thank you for everything you have done for Jake, and for—" she gestured around the room. "For this, you do not need to thank me. I do. You could have destroyed us after what Ben did. Instead, you helped us. That is grace I do not deserve." Emma took her hand. "Yes, you do. You were not responsible for your husband's choices. Neither was Jake." Mrs. Crawford's eyes filled with tears. She squeezed Emma's hand and moved on. The evening stretched into night. People stayed longer than Emma expected, reluctant to leave the warmth and community. When the last families finally departed, Emma and Ryan stayed behind to clean up. "Think it will last?" Emma asked, wiping down tables. "The building or the community?" "Both," Ryan considered. "Buildings last if you maintain them. Communities last if people want them to." He set down his rag. "And I think people want this. You gave them something to belong to. That matters." They finished cleaning and walked home under a sky full of stars. The night was cold but clear, the kind of cold that felt clean instead of bitter. Back at the ranch, Emma noticed something different. Ryan had been building something in the barn, working on it in the evenings when he thought she was not paying attention. "What is in the barn?" she asked. Ryan's expression turned sheepish. Was supposed to be a surprise. "Can I see it?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Close your eyes." Emma let him lead her into the barn. She heard him lighting a lantern, moving something around. "Okay, open." Emma opened her eyes and gasped. In the corner of the barn, Ryan had built a small office, a desk, shelves for books, a comfortable chair. The walls were lined with maps and plans for the mine, the school, the community center, everything organized, everything purposeful. "I know you have been doing all your work at the kitchen table and," Ryan said, "figured you deserved a proper space, somewhere that is yours." Emma's throat tightened. "Ryan, there is more." He moved to the desk and opened a drawer. Inside was a leather-bound journal, empty pages waiting to be filled. "Thought you might want to write down what happened, what we went through. Not for anyone else necessarily, just for us. So we do not forget." Emma took the journal, her hands trembling. "This is too much. I can—" She kissed him, hard and grateful and full of everything she could not put into words. When they broke apart, Ryan was smiling. "I will take that as a yes," he said. That night, Emma wrote the first entry in her journal. She wrote about arriving in Red Hollow, about the loneliness and the judgment, about Ryan watching from the ridge, about the decision to marry him, the attacks, the fight for justice. She wrote until her hand cramped and the candle burned low. And when she finally closed the journal, she felt something settle in her chest. Not closure, exactly, but acknowledgement. This had happened, all of it, and she had survived. More than survived. She had won. Spring came slowly, melting the snow inch by stubborn inch. The mine reopened, production steady and profitable. The school's enrollment grew to 50 students, requiring Emma to hire another teacher. The community center became the heart of Red Hollow, hosting everything from town meetings to birthday celebrations to a weekly market where local farmers sold produce. Red Hollow was changing. Not overnight, not perfectly, but changing. There were still problems. A few families left, unable to adapt to the new order. Rumors persisted about Emma and Ryan, whispers that they had gotten too powerful, too wealthy, too influential. A drunk from Denver started a fight at the community center and had to be thrown out. But those were manageable problems, human problems, not the systematic corruption and violence that had defined Red Hollow before. Emma was in her office in the barn one afternoon, reviewing the school's budget, when Ryan appeared in the doorway. "Got something to show you," he said. "Can it wait? I am in the middle of Nabmoeth." "Needs to be now." Emma sighed, but followed him outside. He led her to the hill behind the house where Anna was buried. Emma had visited the grave a few times, leaving flowers, paying respects to the woman who had come before. He had added a headstone, a bench, simple, sturdy, carved from cedar. "Thought you might want a place to sit," Ryan said quietly. when you come up here? To think? Or just to be quiet? Emma sat on the bench. It fit perfectly, positioned to overlook the ranch and the valley beyond. Do you still miss her? Emma asked. Ryan sat beside her. Sometimes, but it is different now. Less sharp, more like remembering someone from a story instead of someone I knew. He looked at Emma. I will always love her, but I love you too. Both things can be true. I know. Emma leaned against him. I think about Michael sometimes. Wonder what he would think of all this, if he would be proud or horrified. Probably both. Emma laughed despite herself. Probably. They sat in silence, watching the sun move across the sky. Below them, the ranch spread out. The house, the new barn, the corrals, the vegetable garden Emma had expanded. Beyond that, Red Hollow. No longer hostile, but becoming something closer to home. I want to have a baby, Emma said suddenly. Ryan went very still. What? A baby? I want to have a child with you. Emma turned to face him. I know we have never talked about it. I know we got married for practical reasons and everything after has been about survival and fighting and rebuilding. But I want more than that now. I want a future that is not just about fixing the past. Ryan's expression was unreadable. Are you sure? Completely sure. Are you? He was quiet for so long, Emma started to worry. Then he pulled her close and said, Yeah, I am sure. They made love on the hillside that afternoon, gentle and deliberate. Two people who had survived hell together and decided to build heaven instead. 8 months later, Emma gave birth to a daughter. The labor was long and difficult, for 12 hours. Emma fought through contractions that felt like they would tear her apart. Ryan stayed with her the whole time, holding her hand, wiping her forehead, looking more terrified than she had ever seen him in battle. When the baby finally came, screaming and red-faced and perfect, Emma cried. She is beautiful, the midwife said, cleaning the infant gently. She is furious. Shh, Emma corrected, laughing through tears. They named her Anna Catherine. Anna for Ryan's first wife, Catherine for Emma's mother. A bridge between past and future. The town came to visit over the following weeks, bringing gifts and well wishes. Mrs. Morrison brought a hand-knitted blanket. Jake Crawford and his mother brought a wooden cradle Jake had built himself. Even Marshall Clayton stopped by, looking uncomfortable but pleased. She has got your eyes, he told Emma, peering at the baby. And Ryan's stubborn chin, Emma said. Clayton smiled. Then she will do just fine. Anna grew quickly, learning the world with wide eyes and curious hands. By her first birthday, she was walking, getting into everything, making messes that Emma cleaned up with more patience than she had known she possessed. Ryan was besotted. This hard man who had killed and survived and fought became gentle around his daughter. He carried her everywhere, talked to her constantly, built her toys that were far too complex for a baby. She will not understand that for years, Emma said, watching him construct an elaborate dollhouse. I will teach her when she is ready. You are spoiling her. Damn right I am. Emma could not argue. She was doing the same thing. Red Hollow continued to evolve. The community center expanded, adding a second floor for additional meeting space. The school built a new wing. The mine's profits funded infrastructure improvements, better roads, a proper well system, a telegraph office. New businesses opened. A bookstore run by a woman from St. Louis who had heard about Red Hollow's transformation and wanted to be part of it. A proper restaurant, replacing the old saloon's greasy offerings with actual cuisine. A general store that competed with what was left of Crawford's operation, driving prices down through honest competition. Emma watched it all from a distance now, less directly involved. She had passed the school's administration to a board of trustees. Though she still taught 3 days a week, the mine had professional management. The community center ran itself, sustained by volunteer committees. She had built these things, and now they existed independent of her. That felt right. One evening, 5 years after Anna's birth, Emma and Ryan sat on their porch, watching their daughter play in the yard. Anna was chasing butterflies, her laughter bright in the summer air. "You ever think about how different things could have been?" Emma asked. "Sometimes, but I try not to dwell. I do not mean dwell, just acknowledge. 5 years ago, I was alone, broke, hated by everyone in Red Hollow. Now look." She gestured at the yard, the ranch, the distant town. "How did we get here?" "You fought. That is how." Ryan took her hand. "You could have run, could have given up. You did not. Neither did you. We are stubborn like that." Anna ran up to the porch, holding something carefully in her cupped hands. "Mama, look, I caught one." Emma peered into her daughter's hands. A butterfly, wings opening and closing slowly. "That is beautiful, sweetheart. But you should let it go now. Needs to fly." Anna's face fell. "But I want to keep it." "I know, but keeping it would hurt it. Sometimes loving something means letting it be free." Anna thought about this seriously, then opened her hands. The butterfly sat there for a moment as if considering. Then it took flight, spiraling up into the sky. "Will it come back?" Anna asked. "Maybe, maybe not, but it will be happy either way." Anna seemed satisfied with this answer. She ran off to find new adventures, and Emma watched her go. "That was a good lesson," Ryan said. "One I am still learning myself." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. The frontier stretched before them, still wild, still challenging, but no longer quite so cruel. Emma thought about the woman she had been when she had first arrived in Red Hollow. Desperate, afraid, convinced she had to shrink herself to survive. She had been wrong about that. Shrinking did not keep you safe. It just made you an easier target. Standing tall, fighting back, refusing to accept the world's judgment. That was what kept you safe, or at least that was what gave you a chance. "Thank you," Emma said quietly. "For what?" "For choosing me. That day in the cabin, when you asked me to marry you, you gave me a choice, when I thought I had none." Ryan squeezed her hand. "You gave me one, too. A choice to be something other than a ghost. I will always be grateful for that. We saved each other." "Yeah, we did." Anna came running back, demanding dinner. They went inside together, a family, and the porch stood empty in the gathering dusk. Years continued to pass. Anna grew into a sharp, fearless child who asked too many questions and climbed too many trees. Emma expanded the school's curriculum, adding science and art. Ryan served on the town council, helping guide Red Hollow's continued transformation. The silver mine eventually played out, as all mines do. But by then, the town no longer depended on it. Red Hollow had become a proper community, self-sustaining and growing. Jake Crawford grew up too. He apprenticed with a carpenter in Denver, then came back to Red Hollow and opened his own shop. He married a girl from one of the ranching families and had 2 children who attended Emma's school. "You were right," he told Emma one day, years after that first conversation in the empty schoolhouse, "about getting to choose who you become. Took me a while to figure out who that was, but I got there." "I never doubted you would," Emma said. Marshall Clayton retired and was replaced by a younger man who actually believed in justice. Ben Crawford served his 7 years and was released, broken and quiet. He left the territory and was never heard from again. Red Hollow's past did not disappear. It could not, but it faded, becoming history instead of present reality. On Emma's 40th birthday, Ryan surprised her with a trip. They left Anna with Mrs. Morrison, now a grandmother herself, and rode into the hills. "Where are we going?" Emma asked. "You will see." He took her to a meadow she had never seen before, high in the mountains where wildflowers grew thick and the air was thin and clean. In the center of the meadow was a small cabin, newly built. "I bought this land years ago," Ryan said. "Kept meaning to do something with it, but never had time. Figured now was good." "What is it for?" "Whatever you want. A retreat when things get too busy. A place to write. You have not filled that journal I gave you yet. A spot for us to escape when the world gets too loud." Emma walked through the cabin. It was simple but well made, with a fireplace, a bed, a desk by the window overlooking the meadow. "It is perfect," she said. They spent 3 days there, alone with each other. They talked about everything and nothing, made love like they were young again, sat in silence watching the stars. On the last day, as they prepared to leave, Emma stood in the meadow and thought about the journey that had brought her here. From widow to teacher to outcast, to fighter, to builder, to mother. From alone to partnered, from afraid to brave. She had remade herself in this frontier, but she had also discovered who she had always been underneath the fear. Fear and doubt. Someone strong, someone capable, someone who did not just survive. She thrived. "Ready to go home?" Ryan asked. Emma took his hand. "Yeah, let us go home." They rode back to Red Hollow together, two people who had found each other in the darkness and built something bright. The town spread below them, prosperous and peaceful, a testament to what could be accomplished when people chose courage over fear. Emma had arrived in Red Hollow broken and desperate. She was leaving this meadow, returning to the life she had built, whole and purposeful. The frontier had not beaten her. She had beaten it. And in doing so, she had transformed not just herself, but an entire town. Red Hollow would never be perfect. No place ever was. There would be new conflicts, new challenges, new people who needed to be reminded that strength was not about domination, but about lifting others up. But Emma was not worried. She had faced worse and won. And beside her, always, was Ryan. Her partner, her love, her choice. Together, they had built something that would last. Not just a ranch or a school, a pool, or a community center, but a legacy. A promise that even in the hardest places, even when everything seemed lost, people could fight back. People could win. And sometimes, if they were very lucky and very brave, they could build something beautiful from the ashes. Emma and Ryan rode into the sunset toward the town they had saved and the life they had created. And for the first time in years, Emma felt complete peace. The frontier had tested her. She had passed. And now, finally, she could rest. Not because the fight was over, it never truly was, but because she had proven to herself, to Red Hollow, and to the world that she was strong enough to handle whatever came next. Emma Hale had arrived as a victim. She had become a force of nature, and Red Hollow would never be the same.